Hey, yo, what's up? This your boy DeMarco, CEO of Trout Spelling Bee. Check this out. It's Sunday morning, and I'm in Midtown, Oklahoma City, getting ready to walk in Church on the Rise Sunday morning service. And after service, I will be sitting down with my partner, my brother, my spiritual advisor, and a good friend, the founder and pastor of Church on the Rise, Derek Nettles. So we're going to go in here and get a Sunday morning word in, and after I'm going to interview my partner. So y'all keep it locked. Peace.
Miss JJ is right that you can only visit once if you've been here twice in your family. When we doubt he's for us, he will show up walking on top of our problem. Go through God's way. Then God said, I'll show up in it when you get tired of straining. If you go my way, you might get frustrated, but I'll show up and help you. And you gotta know that help's on the way.
Yo, what's up, y'all? This your boy DeMarco, CEO of Trout Spelling Bee. I am sitting here after an amazing sermon service and, just feeling full of the word, happy that I get to sit down with one of my close, hold up. Okay, before I get, man, I'm all over the place already. There's so much I want to talk about. But before I introduce this, man, I just want to tell y'all, man, like, it's crazy to be here today to see the word that he preached when I know where he come from. I mean, started as, working in the church as a deacon years ago to now the founder and the senior pastor at Church on the Rise. So without further ado, I want to introduce my brother, my friend, my spiritual advisor, and just an overall dope dude, Derek Nettles. What's up, man?
Hey, appreciate you for having me, fam.
Oh, man, it's amazing, man. Like I said, I came today, looking to get some content, but end up getting the word,
That's
which I knew I was going to get. But before we start the interview, let's tell them how we got here. It's funny,
Absolutely.
man. I'm going to tell them the story real quick. So, okay, y'all, so we were both.
You gotta tell the real version though.
I'm telling them, hey, we uncut. We uncensored. You know how we do it. You know what I'm saying? Hey, so, okay, y'all, this is what happened. So probably about, I would say, I can't remember the year, but it was probably about 5 or 6 years ago. We were going to a church. We went to the same church. Mm-hmm. He was the assistant pastor at the church at the time. And during this one particular time, he was teaching a Wednesday series of Bible study. So I might have went to 2 of them. And you know how we do. We kind of sit to the back. So as I was sitting there trying to get in the word, I just couldn't really connect to his teaching. So I said, you know what? I ain't coming next Wednesday. I'm going to keep it all the way real.
I thought I was doing good too.
Hey, I said, I'm not coming next Wednesday, man. I can't understand. It was so philosophical. And look, today's word was so much more like, it's just how much you evolve. Yeah. But that particular time, I was sitting there looking like, man, I can't get with this word. So this is what I did, y'all. I pulled a switcheroo on him. I said, you know what? I ain't going to Wednesday service at my church. I'm going over to People's Church to get me a word. Hopefully Pastor Herbert be preaching, because I can't get with this cat Derek Nettles over here at the church we was going to, right? So this is how God worked, y'all, and this is why we're having this interview today. So that next Wednesday, as I promised, I went over to the People's Church. Packed parking lot, bro. When I get in, it's no one in the sanctuary. Like no one. I mean, the parking lot is packed. It's not even no word in the directory to where everybody at. So I go in there, I'm like, where everybody at? They got all their cars out there. Spirit spoke to me immediately. Go home. Go back to your church. So I leave, you know where we was going to church at. It was at Millwood High School at the time. So from People's Church on Britton to Millwood High School, I prayed. I'm like, I didn't want to make it about you, though. At this time, y'all, he don't even know I'm going through all of this. Yeah. I don't want to make it about him because I'm really trying to get a word. I said, so instead of saying his word wasn't good, I said, maybe I'm not listening correctly. And then I was way to the back. So on the way I prayed, and I was trying to get that understanding that I was going to need. So I said, let me go to my church. And when I get there, I'm not going to sit in the back and criticize his word. I'm going to go up to the front row, and I'm going to listen attentively because I know God is trying to speak to me. So that day, it's crazy. It's giving me chills because you preached. You preached your series that particular night. That was probably like the third night you was preaching of it. But it reminded me so much of today.
Yeah.
You know, in a story, you're gonna have to correct the characters, but I remember it like it was yesterday. I don't remember the names, but it was when God blesses you with something. Sometimes He will bless you so much. If you don't have someone like it was either Andrew or Matthew.
It was Andrew.
Okay, I was trying to think
Yeah,
of who
you
it
had it right.
was. I'm
It
like,
was
I was gonna
Andrew.
say Matthew. I'm like, I think it was Andrew.
Yeah.
So the series, as he was preaching that particular day, was talking about how sometimes God will bless you. It was a man in a boat who was fishing with a large net, right? And he wasn't really catching nothing. So somebody gave him some advice on, you should probably go out a little further. So he went out a little further and threw his net. Now he had more fish than his boat could handle. Mm-hmm. So at this particular point, the blessing almost became a burden. But he needed someone, he didn't want to relinquish the fish, so he needed someone to help him with this big blessing.
Yep.
And then came Andrew, right?
That's right.
Did I tell the story right? This 5 or 6 years.
You told it right, yeah.
Hey,
Where's your Andrew? That's where that came from.
Hey,
That's
now
where
I ain't
that
trying to
came
be no pastor or nothing, but I need an amen, so so after that, he preached this amazing sermon on how you need to find your Andrew. When you're getting blessed, sometimes God will bless you with more than you can handle, and that's why you need someone around you, and that's why it's pivotal to choose the people you're around and things like that. And the first 2 times, like I said, the message wasn't really connecting, but that third time, I got it like that. So I mean, he tore the roof off the house that night. And then after he got done, mind y'all, I'm on the front row.
Yeah.
So the senior pastor at the time just came to, give him some praise and you know what I'm saying, just kind of reiterate and close the service out. And he said, you need to find you an Andrew.
Yep.
He said, do anybody in here know who they Andrew is? As a matter of fact, find your Andrew in this room. So I want the whole congregation to find someone that they can, build a relationship with, because they potentially might be they Andrew.
Absolutely.
It was crazy because I'm on the front row. So when he stopped preaching, the pastor came up and he came and sat right beside me.
Yep.
So he was to my left like this. I'm on the front row, like right in front of him. He come and sit on the left. So if you know this cat, he real laid back, cool, modest. So he look over, he say, hey, you want to go have coffee? I'm thinking like the whole time he don't know. I'm like, man, I don't even know. You might not even like me if you know what's going on here.
Yeah, because you had started designing.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
You wanted the dealership no more.
Yeah, so boom, I say, yeah, we can meet Friday. This is Wednesday night.
Yeah.
Friday we meet. But the whole time before we meet, I'm thinking like, man, I don't know what type of cat this dude is. He looked pretty cool, had a part in his head. So I said, oh, he's still kind of hip, Pastors kind of stiff sometimes, but I could tell he had some swag always, was dressed nice. Yeah, so I said, man, I just got to tell him the truth. And that's why you just said, hey, tell him the truth. So we met that Friday.
We was down at Starbucks in Bricktown.
Starbucks in Bricktown.
Yeah,
me, him, and Ebony, his wife, we met at Starbucks, and I'm like, just me being me, I'm like, man, I can't lie to this man, and I was trying to find my way, I was, on the walk, and, I'm like, but I always told the truth. I'm like, integrity is a must. So if that's how you felt, he need to know that, and if he get offended by it, that's your truth.
Yeah.
So when we met for coffee, I said, hey, man, I just want you to know, when I met you Wednesday, I wasn't gonna come to church because of you. I said, I ain't like your sermon the first couple of times, bro. And I about to leave. And just like he doing now, he cracked up laughing. And man, me, him, and Ebony, we sat there and kind of laughed because I was nervous telling somebody, criticizing, his teaching. But man, he received it in the best way possible, man. And ever since that day, this has been my brother, my friend. And it's just amazing how much we have grown together, how much you have grown, how much I've grown.
Absolutely.
And I was just telling your wife before we started this interview, man, in every season you see me go through, you never treated me different. I've had a lot of people in my life that has came and went, but man, your love, your integrity, your honesty, just accepting me where I'm at, you never put any pressure on me to, hey, come to church. I haven't been back to your church since it opened. I don't know if you noticed that. But we have a place. We ain't giving y'all our place, but we eat the best French toast in Oklahoma City.
And if you know where that's at, then you know
yeah,
where that's at.
if you know,
you know.
But we ain't giving you a place. But man, like I said, how long have Church on the Rise been?
Man, we started September 5th, 2021.
Man, it's 2 years almost.
I'm going on 2 years. Yeah, we're in our second year now. So, man, to see where we came from and to see where you've come from.
Wow.
You brought up Starbucks, and the first time that we sat down and had coffee together,
right? Not
really knowing like how the relationship would evolve over time, and then went from like coffee, like, hey, let's meet for some French toast. Let's meet up for, hey, let's go work out together.
Yeah.
So it sees the time when you was coming up to North Edmond, we was working out together and everything. So
I don't miss them workouts. I tell you that much.
We've been through a lot of life, man. But it's crazy just to kind of see what, like you said, where both of us have come from.
Yeah.
Because then I think you was just really getting started with the digital design stuff.
If that was like November of 2016,
that's around.
I had quit my job October of 2016.
I know it was real
so
close.
Yeah,
to like
I was fresh. Like I was fresh in entrepreneurship, and then like I said, you were an assistant pastor, and I was fresh in entrepreneur. Now you fast forward 7 years later, you have your own church. I have my own company, man, and here we are. It's just amazing, man.
It's wild, man.
As I reflected on our relationship before we started the interview, when I asked you, you didn't hesitate, and I'm like, man, it's so much that we could talk about and go over. But a lot of the times it's crazy because you remember conversations we had.
Oh man, listen.
We were supposed to do this.
Shoot,
we had the photo shoot. This about 2017.
Yeah,
we had logos. I'm gonna put the logo on the screen. Yeah, we was right there, man.
Right down the street.
Yeah. Hey, so we had a vision and a plan to do this a long time ago, but it was all in God's timing for us to be in this position, doing it where we doing it at. And man, I don't want to take too much time, just talking about stuff, that we gonna talk about regardless of a toast or anything. Yeah. I want people to understand how amazing you are as a, not only a pastor, but a father. He's in the medical field, a nurse practitioner, works in the ER. Just an overall amazing person, man. And you a man of very few words, y'all. One time, he came to have toast with me. He had just got off a flight probably a day before. And he's telling me,
I know exactly where you're going.
He's casually like, yeah, and he's just laid back like, I'm like, man, how was your trip? He's like, it was pretty cool, man. On the way home, somebody started going into cardiac arrest. I had to do CPR and save their life on the plane. And then he's like, yeah, so man, how your day been? What? You did what, bro? Is they giving you
remember that, bro.
Is the news coming over here to interview you?
I remember that.
But that just speaks on who he is, man. Like, he just, like I said, a man of very few words, but many actions. And just to see you in a position you in, man, just tell me, like, how do it feel going from, just being probably starting at the deacon level or youth pastor to now you have created your own church, you're the senior pastor, man, just to watch your congregation connect to your word. How does it make you feel in all your years of ministry to be where you at now?
Man, so I started I was about to turn 16. I was about to turn 16 when I first was like, all right, cool. Preaching is what I believe God wants me to do. And I'm accepting my call to the ministry. And at that time, there really wasn't anybody my age that I could relate to. There wasn't anybody my age that I could look to or draw from or even just be like, hey, bro, what you're going through as a 16-year-old high school student preaching.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So took a bunch of licks, a bunch of bruises along the way. And so I've been really fortunate, though, throughout this last, 22 years now preaching, to just really be connected to some great guys, to some great pastors, to some great preachers. And so through my journey, I reached a point where a lot of people reach and won't tell you they reached, which is I was done with the church. And that was 2019. And so in 2019, I had gone through such a just struggle personally and really trying to figure out God, what is this? And then being upset with God, being angry with God and blaming God. Man, it's your fault. I'm in this position that I'm in now because of you. You could at any moment change all this if you wanted to. And I don't know why you won't change it for me. And I watch you change it for other people. and I preach that you'll change it for other people. And so that hit different in that season. And I was honestly like, all right, cool, I'm finished. Like, I don't care to ever go back to church again. And if you ask everybody about like the same time frame and the same story, but she'll tell you she was nervous and praying and crying, all types of stuff, man. I had that girl nervous. She was shook. But, the crazy thing about it is that, I had basically told God, I'm finished, I'm done. And I'm just not going to preach anymore. Like, I'm not coming to church, like nothing. Like, God, you can do your thing, I'm gonna do my thing. I'm gonna make this bread, and then, we just move at a distance. And I had gone through such a struggle during that period of time, and I didn't recognize like just being in that wilderness season. Like you was in one not that long ago. You know what I'm saying? When you have to struggle through, getting your page hacked and all that stuff, and all that wilderness that you had to deal with. Like nobody told me how to navigate that time of life. And since nobody told me how to navigate it, when I got into it, I didn't know where I was at, like mentally and emotionally and spiritually. I was all over the place. And so I was done with God. And I stayed that way for probably the better part of like 18, 19 months. I never went to church. I didn't go to church physically. I didn't go to church online. I was like, nah, I'm done. For real, I'm done. So my wife would get up and she'd take our kids to church. She would, sometimes visit Life Church or some of the other churches here in Oklahoma City. She'd go visit. And you can go. I'm not going. And she knew I wasn't going, so she wouldn't even ask. I think the first couple of times, man, you want to go? Nah, I don't want to go. So she got to the point where she just quit asking. And I would go work out. I'd go wash my car. I would go to work on Sunday. All the stuff that I don't normally do, I started doing on Sunday. And the way that God works, man, is, when it's, all our moms and grandparents, they always say, God works in mysterious ways.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
So, man, this is how tripped out, this is how mysterious God really does work. You had made us a logo for Infinity. And this has been several years ago.
Dang.
It's a logo for Infinity.
I remember that. I almost forgot about that.
We were getting ready, me and my wife were getting ready to launch this business, health and wellness and weight loss and all sorts of stuff. We were getting ready to launch. And so Marco makes this fire logo for us. I'm like, bet that's exactly what it's supposed to be. So we get everything lined up to start this business. And so we had kind of had some soft little launches here and there, had picked up a couple of clients and everything. We didn't get really aggressive with anything. And it was during this period of time, I was like, man, what would make life easier for me, knowing I was still working in Tulsa at the time, was, man, if we had like a digital EMR I can get on, I can just send people stuff in from where I'm at. That'd be great. So Ebony got on it, and she started looking up stuff and finding, different ways that we could get done what we needed to get done to make sure we could care for people. And, man, long story short, man, the representative from this company that me and Ebony, we don't even use them. We never did use them. Which is just crazy how God works these things out. And sometimes he'll design a meeting with somebody that you wouldn't otherwise meet to design a meeting with somebody else that you wouldn't otherwise meet. And so we're on the phone with this representative, and she winds up calling my wife. That's what happened. She calls my wife, and I'm in Tulsa at work. Well, I get home, my wife's like, hey, so-and-so from the EMR called. I'm like, what she want? And she's like, she wants to give you somebody's number. I'm like, what? Like, she in New York. Who knows what you want to get me?
Wow.
And she's like, she asked me, did you know so-and-so in Tulsa? That's where I was working. And I was like, nah, I ain't never heard of him. And she's like, well, she said that she felt like you should know him. Like, all right, whatever. And so I ended up hitting the guy up because I thought it was like, all right, cool, you're going to help me get my business started and all this other good stuff. And they kind of find out bro is a former church planner.
Wow.
He had planted a church in Tulsa. It ballooned to like 1,100 people in a couple of years. Like, was one of the fastest growing churches in America. And at this time, I'm not going to church at all, period. I'm not even going to church. And I didn't know she was connecting me with a pastor.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, she didn't say pastor so-and-so. She said,
so let me ask you this.
Yeah.
Did she know you was a pastor?
Didn't know. She had no idea. She had, like, because we didn't divulge all that stuff. When I meet you, man, I just meet you as
Yeah,
Derek,
he's poker face. He's not going to really give you a lot. Before I met him, I was at church with him about a year and didn't know who he was.
Yeah, man, I'm just Derek when you meet me, you know what I'm saying? And I do that intentionally, but, so she gives me this guy's number, and I end up hitting him up. And I wouldn't have normally done it, but I hit him up. He's like, man, let's go have breakfast. So I'm like, all right, bet I'm in Tulsa, on such a day. Like, let's go to breakfast, have lunch. So we went to breakfast, we went to Neighborhood Jam in Tulsa. I get off work, go to Neighborhood Jam, and we're talking, and like we have a similar story. And he's like, brother, you're in the wilderness, man. Like, I was in the same place you were. like 11 years ago. I'm like, what? He's like, yeah, man, you're in the wilderness. And so he's like, man, I would love to tell you that it's gonna be a short time in there. You come out. He's like, man, but you got to take your hammer, take your nails, and then hammer them in the ground, because you're gonna be in there for a little bit, but you'll come out of it. And I never will forget that conversation. And we wound up not opening the business full scale like we wanted to. And right now we're just too busy to do it. And so we'll rehash that at a later time. But we didn't use the EMR. We didn't do a lot of stuff during that season that we wanted to do. The only thing I really did of significance in that whole season of life was connect to that conversation.
Wow.
That's the only thing of significance I did, because it was that
It ain't even about the
conversation.
people. I'm paying attention to how we're not even talking about the people. We talking about the conversation.
Exactly. It was the conversation.
That's why they say
bro.
you're a conversation away from changing your life.
Absolutely, you always are, bro. Because I was, again, not in church at all, wasn't thinking about it, and wasn't praying, wasn't reading, none of that stuff. And I've been preaching at this time for almost like 18 years or so. And I'm just like, I'm finished. And so when I got a chance to link up with him and he told me where I was at, it was like an aha moment. Like, oh, bro, like you in the wilderness. Like, and from that moment forward, like literally from that moment forward, I started to get clarity about some of the stuff that I was experiencing. I started to get clarity about some of the stuff I was going through. And it didn't happen overnight, but I felt a peace leaving Tulsa, coming back to Oklahoma City that day. Like I hadn't had peace in a long time. But driving back from Tulsa to Oklahoma City that morning after we had breakfast, I had peace for the first time in a long time. And I didn't know how long I didn't have peace until I had it again. And it was like, man, like I miss this feeling. Like I miss this right here. Like this is what I want. And so, man, long story short, bro, or long story long, I started just kind of getting back in the mode of like praying and reading and praying and reading and praying and reading. And then the pandemic hits, and everything shut down. And it's like, wow, like, all right, cool. You know what's gonna happen now? And by like January of 2021, I knew like the next step was, all right, bro, like you gotta get ready to plant. And we've been grinding it out since then.
I'm gonna tell y'all where like it's crazy, because when Church on the Rise, like we introduced each other to ideals like before we introduced them to the world. Like
Absolutely.
he knew about Trap Spelling Bee.
Yeah,
July of 2019. It wasn't
Yeah.
launched till probably November or September of that year. Like I started conceptualizing in September, got my first games in November, but it's just like a conversation.
Yeah.
So we'll be, we was having toast like we do, and you knew some of my struggles at that time. Like you said, the wilderness, we transitioning. I said, hey man, I done thought of a game, man. Like I'm gonna put like Ebonic and slang words on cards and have people spell them, but it's gonna be spelled how it sound, not how it is.
Yeah.
So once we did that, it was crazy that we sat down and had that conversation, and then to see like where it was at. But I remember when you called me. Well, you didn't even call me. He sent me like some money on Cash App. This one thing about you, bro, like as my close friend, and a lot of people don't know about our relationship, but man, I'm gonna tell you something on camera, and I ain't never told you, man. You done looked out at times you didn't even know you was looking out. Like you remember in that season, it was some tough days, and I would have did stuff for you for free. But I remember you calling me, and well, you didn't call me. You cashed out me like $300.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay.
Yeah, because that's what you're. Yeah.
I'm
your
like,
design
so
fee.
yeah, because on flyers and stuff for people who don't know me, I'll put how to pay me and stuff. 'Cause I need my money, and so it's big right where it tell you how much, to show you how you can pay it. So bro just did what I wanted everybody else to do. He took the instructions and sent it. I'm like, what's this for? He said, yeah, man, I'm about to start a church. And he knew that was going to get me hype, and then he's the type, he's not going to be excited telling you something. He's going to be kind of low key, but we have been talking about him, starting his own church since we met. And when he said it, I'm like, so that, man, you ain't got to say, no, bro, I'm going to pay you what everybody else pay you. And I'm going to take a quick second to stop and just talk to the camera. When you building relationships and friendships and bonds with people, you don't know how much it means to a person that if they love you and care for you, that you continue to support them. Because in that season, bro, like you would send stuff, you would do stuff. If I had a new clever ideal, you know what I'm saying? I'm about to introduce a new ideal to the market and maybe no one is interested in taking a chance on it yet, you would take that chance for me. And a lot of the times it was just silent support of a brother that he knew that was on the journey that might have needed it. So even though I'm not calling saying, hey, bro, it's a little tight right now.
Yeah.
I need a little extra. He would just pay me full price for a logo. He could have got for me for free based on what he has been and mean to my life. But it was just important that, man, you didn't never, take our friendship for granted. And you would always, you know what I'm saying, never try to get a discounted rate or anything. And still to this day, like you said, the logo you see, a lot of the branding that he has had, even when he spoke of the business before, I would be the first person he called. And man, I just appreciate that before, we continue with the interview, man, because a lot of the times, man, we need help, but we don't know how to ask for it, whether it's physically, financially, mentally, spiritually. We just don't know. As men, we have too much pride to ask for help. But, man, me and you done sat over toasting and told each other some real stuff that we haven't judged each other for. And we're always transparent, and a lot of times we laugh about it because he's the pastor. I'm not like, he's the pastor, and I'm like the one rough around the edges. And if you seen us two in both in the same setting, outside of what we do, you wouldn't think we would hang or be cool. But man, like I said, blood can make us no closer. So
Absolutely.
I just want to thank you for that, man. Before we went any further, now you started the church, but I want to kind of backtrack, man, because a lot of the times you don't really shine a lot of light on it, but man, what you have been in medicine as a young black man, from the age of probably early 20s till now, man, I was with you your whole time you was going to school for your nurse practitioner's license.
Yeah.
And man, I would see the sacrifices you was making, like driving from here to Tulsa, working in the ER, still being a father, still being a husband. And you did this for probably about almost a year, right?
Man, so
It might have been longer.
We started that journey in 2016? Yeah. So 2016 we started that journey, and it was a lot of just kind of first, book work and all that stuff like that first year. That next year and a half, so from like 17 into almost 2 years, 17 into 18.
Yeah, but
like right before 19 started.
But let's not. You've been a registered nurse since.
So man, I started as an RN, and I was 22.
22, and you what, 37 now?
37.
Man, so for 15 years, I want to talk about that because a lot of the times you don't see brothers like us, you know what I'm saying, with scrubs on, really handling their business, knowing what they talking about, revered in the medical field. But man, I watch you crush it. Like,
Man.
How do it feel though, bro? Just tell me, how do it feel to be a black man in the medical field, you know what I'm saying, with all the stereotypes that surround us, with all the stereotypes that surround medicine and how you have to be a certain way. Just talk about how your journey has been for the last 15 years in medicine.
Man, my journey really started out in medicine as an ER tech. So I'm a numbers guy. So I remember every salary I had, like from the time I started to now.
Wow.
You know what I'm saying? Like I remember every last salary. And so I started as an ER tech for like $10.44 an hour. And I was finishing RN school at that point in time. And so I started then, and I was working while I was still in school. I wasn't necessarily working my way through school because I was running track. And so I was blessed to have a scholarship. So I was working while I was trying to finish up, trying to get my foot in the door. So when I finished, I had somewhere to go. And so I started at like $10.44. And I've been blessed throughout my career because when I'm talking about like first became an RN, like at that time I was making the most money I ever made in life. It was $17.44. Now,
Can we pause real quick?
Yeah.
So what made you in your journey at 10:45, you said? Well, how much you was making?
10:44.
10:44. What in your journey gave you the vision to know that, okay, this is just a start, but I have a vision to go a lot further in medicine? What gave you that inspiration and that drive to see past the 10:44 you was making to get to where you at now?
Absolutely. So the first thing, one, is that I'm blessed that my mom was a nurse. And so that's really like the first exposure to the medical field I had was my mother was a nurse. And so I remember when she was an LPN, and then I remember when she went and got her RN. And so she started as an LPN, then went to RN. And so when I was in college and I was really struggling with what I was going to major in, I didn't know what I was going to study when I went to college. And I tell my wife all the time, she don't like when I say it, but I had no intention of graduating. I had no intention of graduating.
just wanted to
college.
run.
I was trying to run track. I was going to go pro, get endorsements,
Yeah.
and I was going to be in the Olympics. Graduating from college is not on my agenda. But I ended up tearing my hamstring my freshman year. The very first race I ever ran in college, I tore my hamstring, and that altered my entire
Hey, y'all,
life.
he getting old because he didn't do this running track. If you can see the boot in all the video, he didn't do
Listen,
this. But hey,
listen.
it's some power. Hey, his congregation said there's some power in that boot because he been preaching the roof off ever since he had that boot
Man,
on.
listen. I just showing my age a little bit, but yeah, man. So I tore my hamstring. It altered my whole career. And that first year of school was rough. Like, I mean, I'm coming in as a freshman that's supposed to be doing like some
What
big
school was you
things.
at?
I was at OBU.
Okay.
So went to OBU. Was running track with one of my best friends, who's a monster on the track. So he recruited me, and because of our relationship, which is how important relationships are.
Absolutely.
I was not gonna go to college running track. I was gonna go to college playing football.
Right.
And I had already signed my letter of intent and everything. And then after our state meet, he gave me a call. He's like, man, coach wants you to come, but everybody know you already playing football. I was like, bro, I'll come around if you there. He's like, bet. So I tore my little letter and went on, and the rest is history. But that first year was a struggle because I tore my hamstring, so it shook my confidence. And I struggled trying to figure out what I was going to major in if I was going to stay at OBU. And they happened to have like one of the better nursing programs in Oklahoma. So I talked to my mom about it, and I was like, I think I want to do X, Y, and Z. I don't know what I want to do. They tried to give me the chance to my major to history. You know what I'm saying? I'm in school. And he was like, yeah, you can be a historian. I started thinking, I'm a black historian. I don't know no historians. Historians don't make no money.
Yeah, they ain't getting paid like that.
So I was like, nah, I can't do that. Like, so what am I do? Be a history teacher? So in any event, man, I had decided I was gonna go into nursing because my mother was a nurse. I knew there was a lot of flexibility. I knew like I could be a nurse, but then you could work from home, you could travel, you could work in surgery, you could work in the ER, the ICU.
Did it give you
like,
confidence
so
watching
much
your
stuff.
mother's journey? Like,
Oh,
and
yeah, man.
Did it kind of give you a roadmap? Like, okay, I seen, because you said she started as an LPN.
She started as an LP,
Yeah.
and then she went to R. And the one thing she told me, which is why I had the drive to like, no, all right, cool, this is just a stepping stone. Was she always told me, if you go, you need to go and be an advanced practice nurse. Like she wasn't gonna let me stop.
Straight
Like at some point or another, I was gonna be back in school. And so she said, if you go for nursing, you need to be an advanced practice nurse. Because you open up the possibilities a little bit more than what you have when you're an RN.
And that's her speaking of her experience to say,
Exactly.
hey, this is my child I'm talking to. I want you to go further.
Exactly.
That's dope.
Exactly. Kind of one of those real moments where like I want my ceiling to be your floor. You know what I'm saying?
That's
Like
dope.
one of those real moments. And so I made the decision even when I declared my undergrad major. Eventually, I'm going back. I actually know how it's going to materialize, when it was going to work out. If I was going to be married first and not, and all these different things start to play into my decision ultimately. But when we went back, man, it was a real struggle. But I always had my eye on something bigger. Like I'm a dreamer, you know what I'm saying? I'm a visionary. Like I could see the vision. And so I was like, all right, this is what I want life to be. So I'm looking at what I want my life to be. And if 1044 where I got to start, my life is going to be there. And so I had a habit of memorizing every salary that I had because I never wanted to make a lateral move. If I was going to move, it had to be vertical. If I was going to do anything different, I had to make more. And so, man, I went from 1044 to 1744 and then to like 35, and I got to 35, and I was like, man, I'm making some good money. Man. I'm making $35.
How old are you? How old are you when you hit
Man,
35?
so it happened super quick. Like our transition was like all within like an 18-month time frame.
Hold up, so you
1044 to 35.
So you like 22 making
I was like
30,
30, I was like 23 years old. Yeah.
23 making $35?
35.
Man, I couldn't imagine what making
Man, listen,
$35 an
bro.
hour.
Hey,
23.
listen,
Man, I
it
got
ruined me.
Oh man. Oh my Lord.
Man, but so I made that transition so quick. I wasn't ready for it. Like emotionally, mentally, I wasn't ready to be making that kind of money so early. Which is why when you get a ball player that gets thrown millions of dollars,
Right.
like you could real quick how it spoils them,
Right.
how it kind of ruins you. It can if you don't have your head on straight. So, fortunately, I was still in church, mother still praying, all the good stuff, and so I'm still praying, I'm still tapped in. So it didn't rock me as bad as it could have, but I always wanted to make a forward move. So I always told my wife early when we got married was, wealth is built generationally, and like in every family, I used to always say, hey, like look at that Keller Williams sign. Like I don't know who Keller or Williams is, but their grandchildren eating off of that land that they get to sell. Like I don't know who a lot of these people are out here, but their grandchildren are eating off the sacrifice of their great grandchildren or their great grandfathers and their forerunners. And I think in every family that becomes wealthy eventually, somebody has to make a sacrifice initially to be able to set that ball in motion. And if there's nobody that's willing to say, look, I'll be the sacrifice to set up generational wealth for my family, then that family's never going to be wealthy because nobody's willing to make that sacrifice. And one of the things that we had agreed on early in our marriage was I was going to be the person to make that sacrifice to make sure that my children never had to struggle like I did.
Absolutely.
My daughter will never have to drive to Tulsa. My son will never have to drive 3 hours to go to work. And all the stuff I've had to do, my children will never, I'm going to make sure they never have to do it.
So you said I'm going to be the sacrificial lamb.
Hey,
break these cycles.
Somebody got to be the sacrifice.
Right on.
Somebody got to be the sacrifice. And so, I'm just blessed to have a partner in her that understood that.
Absolutely.
And even if she agreed with it at the time, she at least went along with it.
Right. So I know the medical field come with a lot of challenges, and you and your wife is in the medical field. I always like to, because I understand how important influence is. And somebody watching this, it might be a young man who, on the fence about what he want to do. But if he look at you and say, well, Derek became a nurse practitioner, so can I. What advice would you give to a young man who want to get in the medical field with all the the barriers, the stereotype? What's some advice you can give a young man or a young woman who wants to do that but may be struggling with how it looks? Like what type of advice you would give them in approach to, the medical field?
So as far as the medical field is concerned, man, really it's, everything has a view depending on where you're standing in the room, right? Like preaching looks easy if you're not up here preaching. You know what I'm saying? Like running cameras and running sound, creating the game, it look easy if you're not behind the scenes doing all the creative work and do all the marketing. So everything has a perception to it, and it all depends on where you're standing in the room. And so, for the one that says, I want to do it, but I'm afraid of how it looks. I understand that as a black man, that's like I've always been like the only black guy in my department. Always, like that's kind of how it's been. I think I still am, but I've always kind of been the only black guy where I work, and it's changing some in that now there are some other younger black nurses that are coming through, male and female. So I'm not the only black person there anymore, but for a long, long time I was. And you can either say, I'm concerned enough about the way you think about what I do to not do it, or I'm concerned enough about the destiny attached to what I do to do it regardless of what you think.
Absolutely.
You have to really settle on that. Like, I don't care how it looks to you.
So just saying, approach it with the mindset. If you really want to do that, put your mind to it. Don't worry about how it look, what people gonna think, and just dedicate yourself to the process.
Man, absolutely, man. Like we started saying, you gotta have some dog in you.
You gotta have that dog.
You gotta have some dog in you.
You gotta have that dog in any field, because you wouldn't think you would need
dog
in the medical field, but
you gotta have that dog in you. Because sometimes you might have to work 12-hour shifts, 16-hour shifts.
Man.
You might not get no sleep. You might have to work nights.
Sometimes you might have to save somebody's life on a plane and just casually talk about it, like people do that every day. Like all heroes don't wear capes. Like, I mean, I'm telling him, and his wife is in the room. I'm telling the camera about the time that he saved somebody's life on the plane, and then didn't even mention it again.
Come back from Disney. He was coming back from Disney. That's what that was. I forgot all about
that. But hey, it's just like I said, man, dope individual you are, bro. No, I appreciate it. But I know. I've known you for about 7 years, and I met you with your wife.
Yeah.
And as I mentioned your wife, man, I sat here in the service today, and I glanced a few times because the loudest person I heard in the room was the first lady. And a lot of first ladies to churches out of it, they sit back in a little cute with their glasses. Everybody got to give an honor to God, then them. Your wife, she pull up her sleeves and she getting that word on with you. Hey, if it was only y'all two here, I think the Lord's still in this building. I wanted to talk about last, but definitely not least, about family, because one thing I knew about you from day one, that you always been about your family. When I met you, you only had one child, your oldest daughter, and then since we became friends, you had a son, DJ, and then you have a daughter, Gigi. Man, just talk about fatherhood first, and then I want you to talk about how important it is choosing your mate, because to see your wife celebrating you, supporting you in your ministry, and this just didn't happen today. She's had the support since y'all been married 12 years now, right?
Yeah.
Y'all been married 12 years, and ever since I met y'all, she been by your side supporting you. So I want you to speak on, you know what I'm saying, how family plays a huge part in where you at in life, and then talk about how important it was for you to find your mate and how she has helped you on your journey.
Yeah, absolutely, man. And one thing that I don't know if you remember, we had this conversation. I think Cole was probably maybe 6 or 7. And I think we was having a conversation about like making sure we had time with our kids. Wanted to make sure that they knew they were seen.
Right.
And the comment that I made then, don't know if you remember it or not, was, bro, you gotta remember. And
Hold up, let me tell you.
Go ahead.
Hold up. Every day you wake up, you gotta choose what you gonna fail at.
That's right. Every day you wake up, that's right.
Come on now.
Every day you wake up, you gotta choose what you're gonna fail at. You have to make sure it's not the same thing every day. And so there are plenty of days that I wake up and with the responsibilities of, work and medicine and ministry, and I fail at being a father. Like, I don't see my kids enough. I don't, I feel like I don't see them enough. And so I never wanted to be the father. I don't want to be the father that my daughters or my son grow up and the only image they have of me is they see my back. They see me walking out the door going somewhere. Like, I want them to know what I look like. I want them to know, even if I got to be tired, I want them to know what daddy looks like.
Absolutely.
I want them to know that they are seen, that they're embraced, that they're loved, that I'm there for them. Like, I think the biggest fear as a father for me is that any one of my kids would grow up and feel like they couldn't talk to me.
Man.
And so there have been plenty of times like as exhausting as Monday morning is, I try to make sure as much as I can to wake up and take Rylan to school because she has to be at school so early. I want to wake up and take her to school, be dog tired, but I cherish the time I get to ride with her in the car, to be able to just spend those 20 minutes when it's just me and her. And we talk about all types of stuff. She always rags on me because I'll be in there singing. I'm the best singer in the world according to Rylan.
Yeah.
I'm really not. She's the worst singer in the world, but I always like to rag on her.
Yeah.
But just to make sure that I have the time to develop those bonds, and it gets more difficult the more children that you have, but you have to just make sure that you're really intentional. And so me and DA, like we have our little thing that we do. Me and Rylan have always had ours, and then of course Gianna, man, these pandemic kids are different. They're different.
My daughter was born around the same time as Gigi. Well, she's a little older than Gigi, but
they different.
I mean, they are different, bro.
Man, so
I'm
I'm still trying to find out who she is.
Yeah.
That's all I can say.
Hey, I'll tell you though, man, you brought that up, but I live by that quote every day, like subconsciously or consciously. Like some days I just be overwhelmed. And this week in particular, I had my children, and every day I needed to do something else. But then my kids are sitting there, and my daughter, just pandemic baby, she pulls no punches. I'm getting ready for her, because if she need attention, hey, daddy, come play with me. Like, don't be sitting in there on this phone. I don't care what you got to do. Come play with me, because I got this doll. I want to comb my hair, and I want to talk to you while I'm combing it. And it's like the demand, like when I see that, I think about what you said, and every day I say, okay, I ain't gonna be able to get 10 hours of content in a day. But I can go hit the boxing, the heavy bag in the garage with my son.
Exactly.
I can teach him how to DJ. I can roll the ball in the floor with my daughter. So I really live by that, man. Like, and I appreciate it. And you done gave me a lot of one-liner quotes that done stuck with me, man. But
man, that stuff's critical, man.
yeah, but like I said, that was a very, pivotal and piercing quote that you gave me, because I'm like, it makes sense, because every day you wake up, you got to decide. I can't do it all. It's only 24 hours.
Listen.
I'm only one human. I got 3 cameras out here, but I only got 2 hands. I can't hold all 3 cameras. So you got to figure out what you go fail at. So that was some advice I really appreciate. And you have been even though we both fathers, I think we feed off each other, because it's certain things that you might say just talking about your relationship with your daughter or at the time when we first met, but now you have 3 children. They only had a son at the time. But I'll be listening to you just be in conversation talking about something, I'm like, I'm gonna try that with my son.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like conflict resolution or something. And you know, okay, my daughter was kind of upset and I had to talk to her about something. And we'd be sitting and toast and I'd be like, okay, maybe I should handle a situation similar to that with my son.
Yep, and
But
vice
man,
versa.
You know, I have yet to, you know what I'm saying, get married or, you know, just find true love and things like that in my life. But I've watched you and your wife, like this is one thing I was telling your wife too. Like, I love the authenticity. Y'all don't try to come and present yourself as the perfect couple. We got it all figured out. Hey, we come as we are.
Absolutely.
And what you see is
Very
what you
much so.
get. And it's a lot what you get because y'all are great people, but I like the fact that you don't live in this highlight reel type of ministry. It's perfect. Everything, you know, everybody goes here saved. Everything is peaches and cream. Me and my wife never argue. Y'all done been through some tough times.
Yeah,
like we gonna keep it real. Y'all done been on brinks of divorces just with issues that, you know, at the time y'all felt weren't reconcilable, but y'all figured it out. Y'all got through that wilderness together. Y'all got through those hard times. Any hard time we can attest that you done had, she been right there with you.
Absolutely.
A lot of my journey has been by myself. When I go through tough times in life, sometimes I'll be like, man, I wish I had that shoulder. And sometimes I have, but the consistency, you can honestly say she's been here for the whole journey with you.
Yep.
So I want you to talk about, you know, your wife and, you know, somebody like me. I look at you like a big brother, bro. Like you 2 years older than me, but you know, I don't big bro too many people, but you're my big brother. And I've always looked up to you and your wife's relationship because for me, it was just always genuine. It wasn't like y'all was trying to put on a facade or a front of this something it wasn't. And like I said, I seen your wife in the first row and she's the loudest in the church, not trying to overdo anybody, but she's connected to your word like the congregation is. So I just want you to speak on, like, you know what I'm saying, how do it feel to have an amazing wife and how has the journey been having a mate like your wife?
Man, when they say a woman can make you feel like you can conquer the world, she really can.
Man.
Like just her belief and her buy-in to who you are. And the amazing thing about my wife in particular is that she saw in me what I couldn't see in me. And I mean that's
a
goes,
cheat code almost in a sense.
Yeah, man. Like
You know what I'm
if you like when you towing out there and trying to figure out like who this is, who am I dealing with, if they only see who you are now, and they can't see who you're gonna become, and they can't see past your right now.
Hey man, you stopped preaching
Man.
earlier, man. Don't get to preaching now, man. The service over, man. You
that
preaching.
piece is critical. They got it they gotta be able to see that. They gotta be able to see that because you're gonna go through some tough times, and she may not have anything to hold on to other than what she saw.
Man.
And because God showed me to her before I even understood who I was. You know, I was still in a pride. I mean, I'm 23, 24, 25, 26. I'm still
making $35 an hour.
I'm still figuring out who I am. You know what I'm saying? I need the car with the rims on it and all that good stuff. You know, beats in the back. That's who I'm pulling up to church with a blacked out Camaro with rims on it and beats in the back. You know what I'm saying? That's how I was pulling up as youth pastor. So, you know, I'm still figuring out who I am. You know what I'm saying? And it was during that season of time that I met my wife. And I never will forget that she told me about a dream that she had. And I've always held that dream close to my heart because it meant so much to me that she could see beyond my right now. I knew it. I knew I was messed up. I knew that I was like, man, look, if she take me, she'll get a great guy, but she'll get a lot of work.
But see, a lot of women don't know that though, Derek. Like a lot of women don't know that we be messed up.
Yeah,
like
absolutely,
we be knowing we be broken men
Listen.
on the journey. Like a lot of the times people see me as trouble. Like I know because I'm trying to figure it out. But it's just amazing that you found someone, like you said, what stood out to me. She seen where you was going, not where you was at.
Absolutely.
See, a lot of times women on my journey, they'll see where I'm at, but they don't know where I'm going. You know, you want to connect to this, but this is gonna be way more than this. And if you can't handle this, then how can I trust you to handle that? You know what I'm saying? So for a woman to have vision in your life, I think what I just said a while ago, that's a cheat code because a lot of women come in your life and not see that, not see that vision and say, he has this flower, he has that flower, he's this, he's that. Like you said, you was pulling up in Camaros and stuff
man.
like that.
Listen,
So
I'm trying to figure it out.
but for her to say, you know what, I'm willing to invest my life, my time, my effort, and my energy into this man, and what comes with him, I know we can work on and we can get better. So for her to see that, that's just amazing. And I just want you to know, like, man, I can see the difference in being, you know what I'm saying, a man like me that's not married in my mid-30s, looking for that. I could see the difference in structure that you had. For a lot of the times, man, I remember one time you told me, like, when y'all had DJ, y'all said, we went to the doctor, you know what I'm saying, make sure everything's good. We about to have a baby. I had never heard of nobody saying that. I'm like, bro, you are an over planner. I ain't never heard nobody say, hey, you about to go to the doctor, make sure you good, make sure you ready to conceive.
We're strategic.
And then
Except for Gianna.
Yeah.
She was surprised.
But like, I remember the preparation you had with that, but just to see y'all lives form, and man, I appreciate it all, being a part of the journey with y'all, to witness the highs and the lows, because to see how strong y'all are as a couple, to see your congregation, man, I just paid attention today, man, and everybody was connected to that word. And I think the authenticity, that's the word that stood out to me. I mentioned that a few times to you and your wife after service. The authenticity of your congregation connecting to your word. In this day and age, man, since the pandemic and everybody, done got on Google and figured out how to get to heaven.
Yeah.
Don't nobody want to come to church and do the work to build a relationship with God.
Absolutely.
But to see your ministry, man, I seen some people who was hurting that found comfort in your words, and it was amazing, man, as your brother, as a friend to watch, because we know people play church, man.
Yeah.
And you've told me your vision for Church on the Rise since you started it. And just to see you living it out, man, it's just an amazing feeling. And, this platform I'm creating, man, is for people like you who are soft-spoken, a man of few words, but many actions. I just wanted you to be able to tell your story, tell your side of the story, because we all get celebrated. God forbid if something happens to us, I be saying right now on my journey, man, everywhere I go, somebody's, hey, you that guy from the internet. I be like, God, just show me how many people care what I'm doing so I know. Yeah. Because if something was to happen to me, everybody would want to celebrate. It's like, man, y'all celebrating for y'all. I didn't know that. I didn't know that there was a million people that love me. Yeah. I only know about these few people who said they support me and the people I love. But I just want to be able to give people like yourself their flowers and just tell you, man, you're doing an amazing job, man. Appreciate it, man. As a father, a husband, a pastor, you know what I'm saying, as a nurse practitioner, man, you crushing it, bro. And I know you don't really look up at the scoreboard or give yourself those pats on the back, but man, I just wanted to take a little time out of this Sunday, man, to tell you thank you for being my friend. Thank you for being consistent with your character. You never judge me or knock me for anything. Man, I done been at some of my lowest. It was times and we have real conversations. Yeah. It's a time you pulling up in the Benz and I'm pulling up in the Nissan Sentra, and the handshake was still the same. When I got it all, the handshake was still the same when I didn't have nothing. And it was like, man, your consistency of friendship, man, means so much to me. Like I said, I've lost so many people on my journey, but God let me keep the ones that was real, man. God let me keep the ones that real. So, bro, on camera, I tell you, I love you, man. I appreciate it. Your family is my family, man. And this was fun, man. I enjoyed service, man. And I say it on camera. I'm about to put myself on the spot. I ain't gonna only come to church when it's time to record. So y'all see me a little bit more, Hey, I'm on my journey.
Your family.
Hey, I'm on my journey. This is one thing that me and him talk about all the time. I don't pull no punches. When he said he was tired of the church, I was tired of the church too. Let's go get some toast. If you ain't going to church Sunday, let's go get some toast Monday. And we'll talk about it then. And we'll have our church right there at where we go eat at.
Absolutely.
But man, thank you again for taking this time out your day to give me this interview, to let me and my team come in and get some content for you and your church. And I want to encourage anybody who's watching this, if you don't have a church home, or if you just want to be connected to a church, make sure you visit Church on the Rise. You can visit their social medias. website, or you could just stop by Coffee Slingers every Sunday morning at 10:30. Well, I ain't gonna say every, because eventually I'm gonna put this in the universe. Eventually, you about to have a bigger spot. God is about to move on your life, move on your congregation, and move on your ministry to a lot bigger places. But for right now, if you're looking for a church home, or if you just want to be connected to someone who's really about the Lord's work, make sure you hit up Church on the Rise. Their staff will definitely take care of you. You know, Derek, his wife, man, just great people over here at Church on the Rise. So make sure y'all check it out. And hey, man, I ain't gonna take up no more of your Sunday. I want you to enjoy it with the family.
Hey, love you, boy.
I love you too, bro. Much love. Hey, y'all take it easy. Peace.